What is the weirdest thing you've heard or had happen to you while using a public restroom? I was at a festival in NSFW a few years ago and saw the wildest thing at one of the portable troughs. That counts as a public restroom, right? It was right at the end of the night, just after the last band had played, so my mate and I went for a piss. As we did, some poor soul's hat had fallen into the trough, probably a few hours prior to us being there. It was drenched in piss, so we thought, hey, a target, and started aiming at it. As we do, we hear some bloke, very happily yelling, making friends, saying day to everyone as he made his way over to the trough. Clearly very high, MDMA I'm guessing. We walks in, stands between me and my mate, lets out a "G'day boys, how are we?" and throws his arms over our shoulders. Bit weird cause we had our dicks out, but ultimately a bit of harmless spontaneous mateship, until he notices the hat we were still in the process of pissing on. He glances at it for just a second, then yells, "Fuck yeah, free hat," before slapping through my piss trail, grabbing it, and slapping it on his head with the most unforgettable squelch I have ever heard. He looks at me, stares me dead in the eye, while beads of literal piss begin to roll down his forehead, and lets out what can only be described as SpongeBob's laugh, if he had been of a 4-day bender, then just walked off into the crowd. My mate and I stood laughing in shock for a few minutes, before we could process what the fuck we just saw. Funniest part was, that he didn't even piss. Think he was just too cooked and distracted by his newfound piece of attire. God bless you, piss hat man, wherever you may be. I had the pleasure of hearing some poor soul trying to pass a kidney stone in a movie theater restroom. His screams would have scared the shit out of me if that wasn't why I was in there in the first place. What do you mean that's why you were there in the first place? I was taking a shit at a heavy metal concert and I'm in the stall pooping. Concert hasn't started yet. I hear this convo out by the urinals. OUHH. Sorry man. Backquote Sal right. It's a nice cock isn't it? Sure. Overheard someone on the phone getting the results of their STD test, which was positive. Some guy in the Seattle Greyhound station odd in the women's bathroom, and I had to call 911. The paramedics moved him to the lobby, where he died, while we were waiting for our bus. I was 16. I was at a goth club, and I was nauseous, because I drank too many gin and tonics, so I went to the bathroom to take a shit. My stomach hurt, so I was rubbing my belly like a cartoon character as I waited for a stall to open. A gay Asian guy in bondage gear, not hot for the location, walked up to me and said, "Oh honey, stomach ulcers?" and gave me a hug and patted my back. I didn't have a stomach ulcer, but I was very compelled to hug back, because I appreciated the sympathy. He then walked off without saying anything else. Seemed like a good guy. Worked for a really large company and decided to use the restroom near the boardroom, more private. When I walked in, one of our board members is at a urinal wearing a suit and jacket, with his pants and undies dropped all the way to the ground. Apparently that is how this 70-year-old man has peed his entire life. Just odd. Edit. Crazy this story is my highest upvote. More impressed many of you have had similar run-ins. Click here for 10 things every CEO does to maximize each day. Board members hate him for this one simple trick. This girl was moaning in the stall next to me, and I assumed she was masturbating, so I walked by without looking. She called out help. It turns out she was moaning in pain, and she was having a medical emergency. I called an ambulance, went to a public bathroom at a restaurant, stop in rural China. I was peeing on a squatter toilet and a woman come in and squats on the one beside me. There is no barrier between us. We could touch hands if we both put our arms out. Anyways, she starts taking a dump with all the noises, and I had to get out real quick. More of a culture shock thing, since she was completely fine with it. Edit. I'm a female. Someone thanking Jesus out loud after every splash. My under 18 self stopped at a public park restroom to take a piss. A guy perhaps in his mid-60s sidled up to me, smiled, and looked my junk up and down in the urinal. I left. Next time pee on him. Someone was taking a shit and eating and talking on the phone. I was disgusted and impressed with the multitasking. I experienced something similar. I had a very spicy lunch at work. By the time I got off of work, in Chicago traffic, it finally hit me. I desperately got off on the nearest exit, took an extra 30 minutes to get to a 8-minute drive to a ramp for anyone not lucky enough to experience the traffic. Basically about to shit my pants, I get to the nearest gas station. I come into the women's bathroom praying for no one to be in there, since it wasn't about to be pleasant to be in the same room. Come rushing in, and find a lady at the mirror. No biggie, she's about to leave, right? No. I sit down, and start to do my business. It was not silent, both in sound nor smell. But I still hear her at the mirror, and there was a smacking sound, almost like her doing her mascara. No biggie, she'll get the hint and leave soon. Right? No. I continue. Still there. I finish and come out of the stall to her hunched over the sink, on her phone, while snacking on mini sausages. This bitch was full on enjoying herself, while I was violently blowing up the bathroom. She acted completely unfazed, moved out of my way when I needed to wash my hands, and continued to stay in the bathroom when I left. Still on her phone, still eating. I was pooping, and let out a really violent fart, and someone outside said bet that burned. And he sounded like Larry the Cable Guy was using the urinal in the Port Authority men's room when some random guy walks up behind me and says, in a raspy voice, "Hey kid, I like your hair." Still peeing, I turn around and say thanks, and he says, "You like pineapple?" Caught off guard, I ask, "What? Pineapple?" At this point I'm zipping my pants back up and starting to turn around to face him. He then points to underneath the wall of the first bathroom stall to a black plastic bag, like one from the liquor store, and says, "Yeah, you wanna buy one? I got one right there, it's delicious." Sure enough, there's a black plastic bag with a pineapple sticking out of it on the floor of the Port Authority men's room. I told him I was allergic to pineapple. He seemed shocked, and, quite frankly, really sad that I couldn't eat his delicious pineapple, and we parted ways. This is pretty tame for a story that began with using the urinal in the Port Authority men's room when some random guy walks up behind me and says, I was in a stall at work browsing Reddit after using the toilet and just killing time until my break was over. When what can I only tell was a somewhat older man shuffling his way over to the stall next to mine. He then lets out a thunderous fart and sits on the toilet and moans out, "Oh dear God, it's the end of days." I immediately put myself together and left that restroom before I heard any more. We had a company all hands meeting at a artisan theater that was way too far from our office to be cool. So after a 4-hour session of watching executives pat themselves on the back, we were finally turned loose and started the long walk back to the office. I had to pee like crazy, so me and another guy stopped into a bar. Happened to be a gay bar, about 5 PM on a weekday. When I went into the bathroom, the urinal was one of those steel troughs bolted to the wall, and there was a shirtless man laying in the urinal, with 2 dudes peeing on him. I really had to go, but noped out of that whole scene, and used the toilet stall with no door on it. I could speculate why they took the doors off, but I'd rather not. When I got done, I turned around, and the guy I worked with was zipping up at the urinal. Walking back to the office was pretty quiet. Eventually I just asked, "Did you pee on that guy?" He said yeah in this quiet voice that didn't invite further discussion. When I was younger, high school age, I had been constipated for a few days. I got the urge while I was in the mall and went to the bathroom. It was empty when I got there and was having a rough time pushing this meteorite out. Then I hear some people walking, a man and a woman talking, then they started making out. Now I was a pretty shy kid, so I tried hard not to make noise and be noticed. Next thing I know, I can see through the crack in the stall that the girl is taking off her pants. I guess it escalated to the point where I was getting nervous, which caused the giant shit I was trying to take to rock it out. They of course noticed, and she says, "Oh shit, someone's in here," then they rushed out. Nice constipated cock blocking my dude, haha.
Au contraire, tir le froid abortifule laxatif tek lances the bowel of famine pas.
When I was a kid, my parents worked in a university as professors, and I would go to their offices after school until they finished work and we would go home. Importantly, the men's and women's bathrooms were right next to each other, and they had the type of ceilings which are tiles resting on a grid type metal grid. One day, I was about 10 years old. I went to the bathroom. I was sitting on the toilet in the stall, and for some reason looked up. Directly over my head, there was a guy looking down at me. He had climbed up from the men's side, removed the ceiling tiles, and was peeping at the female college students as they went to the bathroom. Apparently I was the first person that looked up. I walked into the bathroom at a hospital food court, was in dire need to relieve myself. As I walked in, I heard some thumping from one of the stalls, like someone was gently pounding on the stall walls. Then I saw two pairs of shoes, one in front of the other, under the closed stall door. Due to my need to empty my bladder, I decided to ignore what I saw and took care of business. As I was walking out, the stall door opened, and one of the food court employees came out, alone. He had been changing into his uniform on his way to work, including his shoes. I actually had thought it was two guys having sex in the stall. He must have thought I was crazy as I walked out of the bathroom laughing hysterically at myself. My sister always believed in the importance of teaching her son, even from a young age, to use the correct terminology for genitalia. There was no that's your pee-pee or those are your privates. It was always that is your penis. So the day before Christmas Eve we are doing some last minute shopping. My nephew was mostly potty trained at this time, but still wore a diaper just in case. She goes off to do some shopping, and I take him to the washroom for a change as he has had an accident. As I'm wiping him clean, he screams bloody murder in a washroom full of people and he don't touch my penis. I was fucking mortified, worrying that people are thinking I'm molesting him. So I say loudly, yet kindly, we have to make sure you're clean. I've never been so embarrassed in my life walking out of that stall. And to top it off, I was like 19, but definitely looked younger. TL. Doctor, my nephew screamed at me not to touch his penis in a very busy mall bathroom the day before Christmas Eve. I was out drinking one evening. Went to go to the bathroom and there were 3 ladies blocking the guy's bathroom. They told me I couldn't go in. It was the only bathroom in the place, and I had to piss bad. I waited about 20 seconds then pushed past them. As I walk in there is one dude at the end of the line of urinals with his dick out not facing a urinal. He's giving it a pep talk saying things like come on bud you can do it, and don't let me down again. I take quite a long piss, and he keeps talking to his dong the entire time. I exited the restroom, and told my buddy what happened. He had to see it for himself, so he went to the restroom. Same girls outside trying to stop him, and same dude in there still trying to sweet talk his wang into doing something. Edit. Lots of speculation about this man penis going on around here. Edit. For everyone saying shy bladder. I'm not sure how facing the entrance with your dick in hand and talking it is going to help. Every stall was open. Just go squat. I walked into a public bathroom at a beach and found a big bearded guy nervously staring at the ceiling above the stall while using the only urinal. As I stepped past him toward the stall, he screamed stop. Since his hands were full of dick, he could only gesture upward with his head. I looked up and saw a very large pigeon sitting in a nest in the corner. With a super thick Slavic dialect, bearded guy says, He washed his hands, still staring at the nest, and backed out of the bathroom. Sitting on the toilet in a Denny's bathroom. The large plastic toilet paper holder was just missing the cover, so when I pulled on the toilet paper roll it fell off, and rolled perfectly under the stall wall, and fell over right behind the feet of a man standing at the urinal next door. The man must have seen it, because I instantly hear him say oh. I got it. Thanks. I said, expecting him to finish his business then help me out. What I did not expect was for him to bend down, to pick it up right then and there, but not how one normally bends down. I can guarantee he was midstream when he leaned over backwards like fucking Neo in the Matrix. I see his legs bend forward then see his hand reaching down behind him. He bends over far enough to grab the roll. Stream still going. It was a urinal with water in the base, so I could hear it. He grabs it and perfectly rolls it back over to me, gives a thumbs up, then stands straight up again. Unfucking real. Edit. I told this story at an open mic stand-up once, which was being held in a small local theater. I tried to get the stage manager to lower the curtain to about my knee height, so I could stand behind it and give the proper visual. The stage manager didn't do it and it sorta killed the bit. I'm glad my internet friends get me. I posted this before but here it is again. It was in my small college town, somewhere around 2015. It was Halloween, and I was stumbling back towards my dorm more than slightly intoxicated when I very urgently needed to pee. I'm not one for peeing in public, so I started looking around for places I could stop for the needed pit stop. There was a bar still open on the main strip I had to walk past, so I decided to shuffle in and try to get to the bathroom before a staff member could ask me to buy something. It was empty inside. People had mostly headed off to their separate Halloween parties. I somehow made it to the bathroom without incident, but immediately paused in place. Inside the bathroom were 4 men in hooded robes, standing silently and facing each other. I'm internally a little weirded out but also laughing, because Halloween shenanigans I'm sure. But then they all start moving, as though animated at once. One starts washing his hands for 1 hour longer than is necessary. One is just drying his hands for 1 hour longer than necessary, and I'm relatively sure it was never even wet in the first place. One of them is holding an M&M wrapper and he's peeling it into small pieces, flitting them to the inside of a nearby urinal, and placing others in his pocket. He then handed me one of the torn pieces while asking me, "Do you fear death, my dude?" This guy's delivery was simultaneously one of the most hilarious and eerie things I've ever heard. Something about his inflection upwards on the "my dude," combined with the stone cold way the sentence began. I was unsure how to respond. I think I told him something like, "Hard to say, I've never almost died." He nodded as though my words were profound and affecting. They then all returned to their robotic strange bathroom rituals, not quite ever progressing in their respective tasks. I washed my hands, dried them, and walked out before any one of the men had finished whatever it is they seemed to be doing. The bathroom door clicked shut behind me, and suddenly I'm back in the sleepy bar ambience. Counters being wiped, and chair stacking was beginning. I shuffled out and away into the Halloween night, with no clear idea what the hell just happened. I'm sure they were just kids having some Halloween fun, and they were probably on some kinds of mild drugs. Whatever it was, I still remember it these several years later, at an empty movie theater bathroom when all of a sudden I hear a little girl singing Silent Night. Posted this before, but it still makes me laugh. A guy tried to barge in on the stall I was shitting in, after I said it was occupied, but I was almost done. He tried to open the door again, and I pushed it open into him, and asked him if he was deaf or stupid. I relate the tale to my friends back at our table. As I finish, the dude walks up to his table across the bar, and starts signing to his friends. TL. Doctor asked a deaf person if they were deaf or stupid. Eater. The stall was missing its locking mechanism. When I saw that, I went to use the handicap accessible stall. However, the toilet there was filled literally to the rim with water, shit, and pee. Normally in this situation I would just hold it, but I had been drinking and eating bar food all day. Okay. Gay bar. Me, a lesbian, goes looking for the women's bathroom. No luck. Directions unclear. Not my language. Okay. Men's restroom it is. Half dozen urinals in front of half dozen stalls. First stall, no door. Second stall, broken door. Third stall, dirty AF, and so on. Until I find one that closes, but does not lock. Who cares? Men here don't care for my junk. Time to pee, and I can hold the door with my hand. Middle of my business, 2 pints of beer leaving my body. Someone yanks the door open, and here it is. A 6'3" huge man, muscle and fat, dressed up as a Valkyrie, helmet, horns, sword, but with a floral granny nightgown underneath, and just stops and stares at me. And I'm there, pissing and staring open-mouthed at this giant. I don't even know what. As soon as the pee stops, he just says, "Well, you done?" I nod, wiping guys. He already was sitting down on the toilet as I was yanking my pants up, and he told me to close the stall door as I went out. Thanks for watching, be sure to subscribe, and hit that bell.